Aloha everyone and welcome to NomadDog's Dungeons & Dragons Online 2025 Year in Review. In this video, we are going to take a look at all of the major events that occurred in Dungeons & Dragons Online this year, talk about some of those, as well as give some things that we hope to see in 2026. So go ahead and grab yourselves a drink, sit back and relax as we get into the year that was 2025. So 2025 was actually a pretty big year for Dungeons & Dragons Online. There were some pretty major things that occurred. We had several updates throughout the year with a healthy dose of new content. And we had some really big changes when it came to the servers and some of the other things that went along with that. So let's go ahead and take a look at the big topics that we'd like to talk about for this past year and go from there. All right, so the big topics that we're going to be looking at today is the updates to the game for 2025. We'll go update by update. I believe there's about 5 or 6 of them. We'll talk about the 64-bit servers and server performance and what that has meant for the game. And then we'll talk about some of the things that I would like to see in 2026. So the first update we had for the game was back in February. And that was update 72, called Balance the Scales. This was the end of the Year of the Dragon event, where we received Dragon Disciple as a new archetype. And along with that, there was a rework on the monk class. And that rework basically involved taking the combo finishers that the monks had and have had for a really long time, and making it a little bit simpler and putting those into the enhancement trees themselves. And it just has the monk play, in my opinion, a little bit easier than it did previously. Now, I know this was a divisive decision by Standing Stone, but I do also understand what they're trying to accomplish. They're trying to make the game more accessible and have every class be something that everyone can enjoy. I know that some people did want monks to stay as they were, but I do think that this monk rework was actually a good move on their part. We also had the 19th anniversary event, which was your typical anniversary dungeon that you would run. And you would get your party favors, and you could turn those in for all of the really cool things that you can get. My personal favorite is the Stormreach D12. I think that is one of the best quality of life items that you can get. There was some changes to the reincarnation XP that is needed for subsequent lives. And so now from your first to your 4th life, you have the same amount of XP that is needed to go from level 1 to level 20. And then from your 5th through your 7th life, you also have a new amount of XP, which would be equivalent to a 2nd life character. And so you get a discount on the first 7 lives. And then when you hit your 8th life, that is when you hit the max amount that you're going to need to get from level 1 to 20, or what used to be a 3rd life character would need. I think it's really good for newer players. It gives them an opportunity to kind of get the ball rolling on the reincarnation train. And when they do that, it gives them a little bit of catch up, because there's a lot of people who have a lot of past lives. We also had the Den of Vipers raid that came out partway through the update. And that was kind of the ending part of the Den of Vipers raid that we had in, not Den of Vipers raid, that was the end of the Lanterns event. Which was the dynamic event that we had at the end of last year into the beginning of this year. And then we also had the first of 3 coffers that were offered, and that was the Echoes of the Black Rose coffer. Not my favorite of the coffers, but it is an option that, if you are into cosmetics and you like the way it looks, it's always something that you can look at purchasing. The next update we had was update 73, which was titled Tavern Tales, Shout out to my buddy Troy over at Tavern Tales on Twitch. I think they spelt it wrong. It should be Tails, but I digress. It was a 3-quest adventure pack. So there were 3 quests that were available for purchase, and they were available for purchase in a different way than we normally have seen. These 3 quests could be purchased either individually, or you would get a discount if you chose to purchase them as a bundle. The 3 quests were Toil and Trouble, Covered Culvert, and Sleeping with the Fishes. And each one plays differently. There's some cool secret things in one of the quests. If you haven't played them, and you have the opportunity, check them out. They're simple. They're low level. They're like level 4 and 5, and so it makes it a nice entry level type of quests. Then we also had a new free to play quest that came out around the same time, and that was a quest called Dinosaur Crisis. This quest specifically was replacing Memoirs of an Illusory Larcener, because that previous quest had issues that affected game performance. Standing Stone opted to remove that quest from the game and replaced it with this one here. And the cool thing is Dinosaur Crisis does also give Sun and Moon augments, which were initially introduced with Myth Draenor. And continued into Lemordia and so forth. So really cool new quests. I enjoyed all of them. So if you haven't gotten them, or if you're interested in checking them out, I would recommend it. We also had the introduction of the 2nd year of the VIP loyalty program. The items that are being given out for year 2 of the program, very similar to the items that were given out for year 1. There's a few adjustments that have been made in terms of new cosmetics, a new uncommon ingredient token that you can get as opposed to the rare ingredient token. And so, again, for me, the VIP loyalty program is a nice perk on top of what I already got for VIP. And so I'm happy to receive it. Again, though, it's one of those things where it's there. If you like it, great. If you don't, you don't have to engage with it if you don't choose to do so. You also do have, there was also free access to Cormier. So for those of you who are unfamiliar with Cormier, prior to the updates to the servers this year, Cormier used to be a server where you had to be VIP in order to access it. And that was primarily ongoing because it was kind of like a test server to make sure that the 64-bit servers actually performed it the way they wanted them to. And so they were kind of limiting the number of people that were on there. They did grant free access to Cormier, and then when 64-bit servers were introduced across the board with multiple additional servers being added, it did remove that VIP status for Cormier that you needed in order to access it, and it just became free for everyone. But that was what we got with Update 73. For Update 74, this was the Chill of Ravenloft pre-order, and prior to all of the quests and everything else coming out, we received the following things if you had pre-ordered the expansion. And that was a new Dampier race, so basically like a vampire. You also had a new Dampier Dark Bargainer Iconic, which was a warlock. And along with the Dark Bargainer came things known as Dark Gifts. And what Dark Gifts are is they are feats that can be obtained. Initially, it was just for the Dark Bargainer, and later on when the Lemordia expansion came out, you actually had Dark Gifts available for any person who owned the expansion if you completed the saga. You got a token that you could turn in to get a Dark Gift. Now, Dark Gifts are basically bargains that you make with the folks that are in charge of Ravenloft, the Dark Powers. And so as you take a dark gift, you get a boon, but there's also some drawback to it. I'm not going to go through all of the dark gifts. You can always look those up if you're interested in those. And so please feel free to do so. Along with the pre-order for Chill of Ravenloft, the introduction of 64-bit game worlds came about. We're going to get more into this, but I did want to mention that it was around the same time as Update 74 that the announcement was made that the 64-bit game worlds were coming out, which was a consolidation of servers into less servers, but more people on each server. So Update 75 itself was the actual Chill of Ravenloft expansion. We got a new wilderness area and 13 new quests. Again, dark gifts were available to everyone who purchased the expansion. And, I enjoyed the wilderness area. I thought they were going for a specific vibe, and I think they nailed it. The quests were okay. I had fun doing the quests. I've done them only a few times, but they're fun to do. Night Revels also came out as part of Update 75. Again, some of these are later patches to the update, but it was all part of Update 75. So we had Night Revels. There really wasn't much new with Night Revels this year. There were some new cosmetics and some new items in the turn-in location, but no new quests or anything else like that. There was a lot of server performance work that was being done. And we'll talk a lot more about that when we talk more about the 64-bit server change. But a lot of that server work was being done because of the new servers. There was also a new raid that was introduced, which was called Relentless. I have yet to do this raid, so I have not actually been in there. I've seen some videos of it, and I've seen people talking about the raid itself. It is I believe, a level 36 raid, and ties in with the Lamortia expansion. And then we also did receive a new volcanic patrons coffer, which makes the second coffer that was been released in 2025. Update 76 was the limited time event, which actually is still ongoing as of the timing of this video. And this limited time event is similar to the Lanterns in the Mists event from the previous year. Essentially, you take on either Winter Court or Summer Court lutes, which are musical instruments. Just like the Lanterns, it equips to your cosmetic shield slot, and you interact with what are known as motes. And the motes, after you kill the guardians of the motes, you can obtain the durability from that mote to increase the durability of your loot, and then you could turn those in for a series of different cosmetics. So very similar to the Lanterns in the Mists event. Now, one of the new things with this event are special quest areas where you can obtain a golden mote, which is actually a very large durability boost if you do obtain the golden mote. There's 5 of them that exist in the game. One that applies to each of the 5 different types of loots. And it's essentially an extra quest area that is attached to already existing quests. So one of the things that we were doing as the event started is people were trying to locate where these were located. And it's very similar to when we had the Illithid invasion event, where we had to find the Illithids. This is that same type of adventure that we had to go on. We had to locate something that existed within a quest within the game. And so I like how they are iterating on different aspects of events that they've done, which I've enjoyed and I think are a good addition to the game as a whole. Update 76 also did have a fairly significant weapon finesse balance pass. If you're interested in finding out more about that, I would say check out the release notes because there was a lot of detail that went into that. But again, it was something that they've been working on, trying to balance out weapons. As we've seen, they've also tried balancing out enhancement trees and, hopefully making the game overall just more enjoyable for everyone. Update 77 was the last update for 2025. It was called Presence and Pain. There is a new free dungeon that takes place in Lamortia. It is called Body and Mind. This is another quest that I have also not done yet, but it is on my agenda to get it done fairly soon now that I have my main tune at cap. It was also marked the start of festival, which happens to be one of my favorite times of the year. We used to do a festival giveaway with our guild, but as time went by, people didn't want the loot that we had taken out before. But festival does hold a place in my heart. I enjoy it. I like turning in for cookies and whatever random stuff you might get out of that. And then we also did have our newest Patron's Coffer, and that is Patron's Coffer of the North Wind. It is a barbarian themed coffer. We did get another Great Axe cosmetic. I did do a video on that. You can find that on my YouTube channel. And if you wanted to take a look at my review of that particular Patron's Coffer. So let's go ahead and talk about the next really big topic outside of the updates to the game. And that was the 64-bit server migration. And we'll talk a little bit about why this was such a big deal. So in June, there was an announcement made that Dungeons and Dragons Online would be moving to 64-bit servers. These 64-bit servers essentially made it where there was more breathing room for the game, where it didn't have to force things in and out of memory as often, which could lead to lag. And so it was seen as a good move. Cormier had shown that the 64-bit servers were viable, that there might be some things that they would have to work out once the servers came up. But we were given a window of about a month and a half, 2 months, give or take, maybe 2 months to migrate your characters. So there were 3 new 64-bit servers. Those were Shadowdale, Moonsea, and Thrain. Initially, Shadowdale had a name from Greyhawk that people weren't really happy with, and so that actually was changed to Shadowdale. Those 3 new servers came along with the already existing server, which was Cormier. And the way that people were going to get to these new servers, it was not going to be a forced migration. What players were allowed to do were they were allowed to move their characters from any of the pre-existing 32-bit servers to any of the 4 new servers. And so me personally, I have characters parked on every single one of the 64-bit servers. So if I happen to want to go play on another server, I already have characters ready to go. Because I was consolidating characters from, 8 different servers already. So people can move to the different servers. And overall, the balance of population seems to be fairly good. There are some servers which have slightly higher populations than other ones. And one of those new servers, Moonsea, actually is located at a data center in Europe. And so a lot of the European players migrated to Moonsea just because it's closer to their home. The other 3 servers, Shadowdale, Thrain, and Cormyr, are all located in Las Vegas here in the United States. So what's going on with the previous 32-bit worlds? All of the previous servers have been turned into what are known as ghost worlds. Essentially, you can log into the servers, you can do some character maintenance, and you can prep your characters for transfer to the 64-bit servers. And those ghost worlds will be up for 2 years, and people will have that time to log into the game, discover, hey, I can't do anything because I can't get into any quests because it's just a ghost world. All I can do is mess with my character. And then they can migrate to one of the new 64-bit servers. One of the things that we do have to talk about is when the initial launch of the 64-bit servers happened, there was some serious game performance issues, a lot of lag, a lot of latency, and people, people were, genuinely unhappy. But the same thing happened when Cormyr was launched. When Cormyr was launched, there was latency issues and things that still had to be worked out on the server side. It was new server technology. We have 32-bit games moving over, and how do we, make sure everything plays nice? And so there was a lot of behind the scenes work that Standing Stone did over a period of several months with the 64-bit servers to get it to a state where it was way better than it was. The good thing about the 64-bit servers is it does give more tools to the developers to be able to isolate and identify the different sources of lag and latency issues, and helps them, figure out how to make changes to those to make game performance better. Overall, as of today, which is December 18th, 2025, the lag has been significantly better than it was. Again, there's probably always going to be some sort of performance issue with any game, but the game is in a really good spot right now in terms of the server performance. So those were the really big topics for 2025. So let's talk a little bit about what I would like to see personally for the new year. So what do I want in 2026? I think one of the things that I really want to see is I would like to see an enhanced new player experience. Now, what do I mean by that? For me, one of the best aspects of Dungeons & Dragons Online is the diversity that you have in terms of how to build your character and how to play your character. Now, the other side of that coin, having such great diversity in terms of building characters and playing characters, is that the sheer amount of options that are available can easily cause decision paralysis for a new player. They might find it overwhelming that there is so many options. What do I do? Is there just a build that I can put together or something that I can click on that just builds a character for me? And unfortunately, right now, there's no good option. There is pre-existing characters that exist in the game that are significantly outdated. And if you really want to look for a new character build, then you are usually relegated to either reading the forums, checking on Discord, or watching videos of content creators who really do specialize in creating new characters. And so there's really no centralized location to give new players a coherent well laid out new player experience. A lot of it is you jump in, you play, and you try to figure it out as you go, and ask questions of people on the forums, questions of people in the Discords. And so one thing that I would love to see is I would love to see Standing Stone work on developing a new player experience. Now, that can be either on their own, but I think that they have a very good resource in the community that exists for this game, where there are several really, really talented people who have created characters that are first life friendly, that are, fairly straightforward and easy to play. They have options of, this, you could play this without owning anything in the game. You could play this if you own certain things in the game. And so there's a good variety. And I think Standing Stone can tap into that community in order to help craft this better new player experience. Another thing that I would love to see is I would personally love to see another true hardcore season. I've enjoyed the Lanterns event. I've enjoyed the Symphony of the Fae event. But I'll be honest, I do miss the regular hardcore type of event that we had in the past. We stopped at hardcore number 9, hardcore season 9. If anything, I would love to see just one more true hardcore season, finish it off with hardcore season 10, and just make it an absolutely fantastic hardcore season. Next year is also DDO's 20th anniversary. Now, what am I hoping to see with that? I would like to see something other than the anniversary dungeon that we've had over the last several years. I would like to see, something new. I think for something as big as the 20th anniversary of a massively multiplayer online role-playing game, for something that's been around for 20 years, still has a very active fan base, I think it would be good to see them do something maybe along the lines, maybe not as big, but maybe along the lines of like the Year of the Dragon event, where each month or over a series of a few months, we get special gifts. Either that, like a new archetype, or some, a new adventure pack, whatever, that's available to everybody. So those are some things that I would like to see personally. I also fully expect that we're going to see some new archetypes this year. Rogue, Barbarian, and Wizard are the 3 current classes of the non-premium classes that do not have archetypes. I am pretty sure we'll see at least one of those have a new archetype this year. Now, I know there has been talk in the past about an archetype for Barbarian. So hopefully maybe we'll see something for Barbarian. Could possibly be something for Rogue, or it could be for Wizard. But I fully expect to see at least one of those classes get an archetype this year. And this has been a topic of discussion for several years now. I enjoy playing two-handed fighters, and I really, really hope that we can get more two-handed fighters going. And for that, what I would like to see is great clubs actually be a viable weapon for two-handed fighting. I've always enjoyed great clubs. I think there's some really cool great clubs in the game that I think, really need to kind of just be let loose. They look good, but great clubs really aren't that great. And they haven't been for several years. And I would love to play a barbarian that's just wielding a great club and running around and bonking everything on the head. That would be my idea of a fun time. So overall, for 2026, let's talk a little bit about my final thoughts here. I think overall we had a good selection of content for 2026 or for 2025. We had plenty of updates. We had major changes in terms of servers. I think the server migration is probably one of the best things to happen to DDO in the 16 years that I've been playing, because I was on one of those servers that the population was lower. It was really tough to find groups. You end up playing solo quite a bit, and I don't enjoy playing solo. The draw to DDO for me is the aspect of community and playing with other people, and I want to see that continue. So, so the server migration was really big. I like the fact that we got a bunch of new content. This is what I'd like to see for 2026. I hope some of this does come true, and really do look forward to whatever we might have going forward. Alrighty, folks, that is going to wrap it up for this video. If you want to catch me on my usual live streams, I usually stream Wednesdays and Friday nights at 6:30 p.m. Hawaii time. And then I do also stream on DDO Stream on Sundays at 2 p.m. Eastern as we continue to explore the game and have fun. But I just want to say aloha, take care, and we will catch all of you guys in the next video.